No, BJ he was moving. His kid bought the house across the street from him.
Oh,
That's a way to ensure grandparent babysitting.
Yeah, makes the
For those of
commute easy.
you who are,
You're live, Joe.
I get flown all the way to California for that.
do you really? Excellent.
And she gets frequent flyer miles, so.
Yeah, that's
Okay. I guess we're all set.
Yep.
Board of Ed, no Board of Ed. Selectmen update, Bud, you wanna?
Yeah, I recently attended a meeting for the Connecticut Council of Small Towns where there was an in-depth discussion about the recently adopted state budget. The good news, budget was passed on time, which assisted Summers and all other towns in setting their fiscal 2019 and 2020 budgets. The rainy day fund now has about $2.2 billion in it, thanks to the improved revenue collections. The bad news, the state is still projected to have deficits of approximately $1 billion in fiscal 2022, $1.3 billion in 2023, and $1.2 billion in fiscal 2024, for a total of $3.5 billion, despite the recent $1 billion tax increase on numerous items like marijuana, restaurants, dry cleaning, car washes, etc. The state can't tax their way out of these deficits, yet they continue to increase spending while ignoring the unfunded teachers' statement, retirement fund, and the crushing CPAC labor agreements. Can't run away from the math with the continued deficits that make future budgets unsustainable. We're constantly refinancing the deficit and pushing them into the future at higher cost. It's like using a credit card to pay off the existing credit cards. They talk about kicking the can down the road, but the can has now become a huge boulder. I look for higher taxes and less aid to the towns in the future. Fortunately, Summers is currently in good financial shape, but for how long? We're going to have to increase control of economic development in order to mitigate future tax increases. I don't know, Mike wants to make additional comments in that regard, but it was not a good discussion. And I think everybody's ignoring the 800 pound grill in their room. Spending too much, revenues are untimed shots from Wall Street. That's it.
Any questions? Comments? Mike?
I have a few items I'm going to cover. First one's going to be a year-end budget projection. The second one will be the tax sale. The third one will be a bond update. For year-end budget projection, you've got a package in there, or a page, that shows what our original adopted, shows revenue and expenditures, and it shows in both areas what the adopted budget was. If you look at the summary page, and not all the details should be above, it should be,
Yeah.
is that,
It
did
was
you get it?
Yeah, it was
Okay.
supposed to be on top. I don't know how it got out of
I guess it's at the end.
Yeah, it got moved somehow.
And then Brian can, after I go through the summary here, Brian can walk you through any of the detail. Summary-wise, our revenues are coming in at $1.4 million over budget. It's really mind-boggling, but we, as other towns in the state, did receive more state aid than we budgeted for. We all budgeted based on the governor's budget, and then the legislature came in with actually doing away with the governor's cuts and passing a higher budget. So for us, our ECS funding is $653,580 more than we thought. For us, our pilot funding is $60,645 more than we thought. To add to the state aid part of it, our building permits exceeded budget by $80,000. We have Growers Direct putting in greenhouses, that was a $30,000 building permit. New home construction in town was we didn't anticipate, 40,000 in building permits. Our bank rate interest continued to grow throughout the year, in excess of 2%. And that resulted in $125,000 more in anticipated interest. We sold property that we never anticipated in the budget on Mountain View Road for $50,000.
Was that a tax sale or?
No.
No,
No,
it was money that the.
it was town property that we had. I don't even know why we were still holding it,
The
but
property
yeah.
wasn't buildable, the neighbor bought it,
Price?
okay.
we established the price, $50,000.
Secondary drivers, we've collected actually $300,000 plus in property taxes. 200,000 of that is in our current year, but 125 or so of that is in delinquent taxes, spread amongst prior year taxes, spread amongst the write-offs that we've done prior, interest in liens. So that is 125K plus. So in total, property taxes came in over $300,000 than what we budgeted. So when all is said and done, it's a very strong, favorable revenue picture, most of which really you could not have anticipated at the time we budgeted.
This was Malloy's budget, right?
This was Beloy's budget, yeah.
Okay. That kind of explains a lot of it.
And that's and then they passed the budget after we had adopted our budget. So. On the expenditure side, we're running about 1% across the board, lower than what we had budgeted. So, you know, we're pretty happy with that. And historically, we've tended to do that, be in that neighborhood. So when you end up adding the two of them together, it shows a surplus of over 1.6 million. Now, immediately coming out of the gate, 561,000 of that is committed. It's committed to the 2020 budget. That's what we used to close the gap, so we didn't have to raise taxes. So, in essence, now this is an estimate. We're looking at a return to fund balance of about $1.1 million. And you know, if you didn't have the state portion of it, we'd be down in around the $500,000 range, which has been common for us in the past. So if it wasn't for the timing difference with the state, so what that will do to our unrestricted fund reserves, well, it'll make them approximately 7.3 million, or 21.5% at year end, or 2.6 months of expense. So
Was that
that's
3 months?
that's what.
We're supposed to have 3 months?
2.
Two.
So that's pretty solid performance. You know, just a couple of things. You know, we will be looking at a teacher's retirement contribution, and that maybe not in the second year of this biennial budget, but certainly in the next one. And that's all signs indicate that will be the case. So, and what that will be, we're not really sure yet, because they really haven't worked out the formulas, and they are refinancing, and they're tweaking and changing things around. So we thought that the full contribution for the town would be around 700,000, and then they were going to phase that in over a 3-year period. So if we assume that, you know, in the future, that's something we may be looking at.
That's not making up for the deficit, that's just transferring the current
That's just
liability.
transferring a current liability over to us.
I wouldn't want to be planning to fund that teacher's retirement collection. I'd want our actions to collect that money at the time that
Yeah.
it gets stuck on us, so people know there's a one-to-one relationship for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's filled with curveballs. I mean, the way they throw things at you, yeah, so, you know, well, I don't want to digress on that. So that's kind of the, that's kind of the overview. I mean, Brian can answer or walk you through the detail. You know, from my perspective, what I see in the detail is, well, it's kind of what I'm saying to you. It kind of backs it up. There's a couple of areas where we went over budget of just a little bit. And there's a couple of areas in your detail report that really aren't complete yet. And I know we have 1 week left till the end of the fiscal year, but we still haven't processed a final state police bill.
Yeah.
We still haven't gotten the final bill for probate court. So there's some dangling items out there that really aren't going to change. We're estimating, obviously, that it's included in the estimate. So you're not going to be able one for one to look at the actual and the estimate and come up with the same thing. But it's going to be close. So. You know, maybe you could take this report, and if you have any questions, call Brian or myself, and we can answer those questions for you.
I think we gotta reverse this thing slowly.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, when I sent you out that Moody's report, they were pretty impressed with the strength of our fund balance. So that is something they're looking at. They're looking at that as insulation against state cuts that can come at you on a random basis when you least expect it. And they used that one line that we deftly worked our way through that deficit, and we did. And you guys made a lot of good decisions. We took the right turns at the right times, and so I think for the most part we made it look a little bit easier than other towns have had it. So.
So, they recommend 15 to 18%.
Yeah, we don't have a official. You know, I'm drafting one right now. I want to draft an official fund balance policy that you'll have to approve. That will say just what you're saying, Jim. That we would like to maintain it in the 15 to 18% corridor.
Well, I have a little caveat. If they like to see it up around,
Well, 18%, 18.5% is the 2 months.
they commented positively.
Yeah, they commented very positively. You know, you start getting up over 20%, and you really shouldn't have to carry a fund balance that high. So,
All right.
Mike, make a comment in terms of comparison to our fund balances at 2.6 months versus Ellington.
Well, Ellington is in not where we don't have anything to do with Ellington, other than with the town next to them. But their fund balance now is 1/2 of 1 month. It's like 0.54 or something to that effect. So, and they haven't even issued the financial statements for 2018, let alone 2019. So financially, they're in a rough spot right now. They had the former finance director has passed away, and they didn't seem to have a plan B for all that at this point. So, so you know, again, conservative budgeting, making sure that we can weather the storm of any state curveballs that are thrown at us. That's kind of where we stand. We want to keep our fund balance within a certain range that's reasonable. We don't want to let it grow too high because it's just not fair. So if we can give it back and still be safe, we should give it back and do that. We could technically, depending on the circumstances each year, actually consider how much of fund balance that we would like to contribute to the upcoming budget. So that's it. Another interesting budget thing is Bud was talking about the state budget being passed. there's a new law in the state budget that says every town's Department of, or Board of Education needs to quarterly report its actual expenses and revenues and estimated expenses and revenues on its website and in a letter to the first selectman. So it doesn't say it needs to be line item. It could be the gross amount.
No, I don't have anything to do with that part of the equation.
So
I don't even answer the state when
they call it the Mike Parker clause. No, I'm not kidding. I'm just kidding. But, so, you know, and I sent that off to the superintendent and to Bill Botwell, let them know that I would like to be copied on their first memo to the selectmen. So
bureaucracy.
I think it's great.
they don't really have to worry about the revenue reporting. I mean, we in finance could report on what we're getting in terms of ECS revenue or revenues. We just have to worry about
It would be
their
interesting to
expense
report the
side.
fact that the state was in arrears for a number of,
But yeah, can you
Quarters
imagine
for
if the
those-
state requires you?
and they don't pay
What?
until the
Why would they?
June
Why,
20th.
why is it even in their interest for them to tell the town to do that? I mean, it's just
to make
but-
themselves look bad.
But anyway,
Because we were late, they were late on some of those
They actually
payments,
just
weren't
sent
they?
out a memo last week about the municipal projects grant.
yeah.
That towns haven't received it yet. But it has gone through the comptroller's office for approval, so, but
And have we gotten the last Pequot payment yet?
not yet.
No, so
That's
we have
what
a
I'm
week
saying.
less.
We have a
Yeah,
week to go.
don't you
It
remember like
usually
last
comes the
July,
last couple
everybody
of
was
days.
saying, oh, you got all this state money, oh my God, and
Yeah.
you're sitting on a trip. We haven't even got $500,000, we have another,
Yeah, it's
$500,000
That's
worth
what
of,
that's the
with a
point I'm
week
making.
left to go in the year of state aid we haven't even gotten yet. And if it weren't for the fact that we sent our tax bills out 2 weeks earlier this year, which has helped with our cash flow, we would be, we'd be juggling,
Right.
so. Next item up is the tax sale. This morning there were 6, I call them finalists. We had 6 finalists. 2 of them paid off today. Earlier today, we received the attorney let us know that 2 of them have paid them off. So that's what's left. You see are those 4 properties. 2 of them are residential houses. One of them's vacant lots. And one of them is an actual business on Main Street in Somersville, where Tea Maria's restaurant is. That entire building is up. So, and none of those people have ever responded to any of the letters, demand letters, certified letters that the town has sent them, nor have they responded to any of the letters, certified letters that the attorney has sent them. So, as of right now, they're gaining speed and they're running full speed ahead for the the August 21st day is the date of the tax sale here at Town Hall. So,
I'm sorry, what date did you say? August?
August 21st.
August 21st. If you're interested in looking at any of the
I'm not.
backup of that, I mean, it's posted on the
Website.
bulletin board upstairs, and there's also a number of these on the chair in front of the bulletin board. But I've just got one copy here. If you want to look at it at any point, those are the 4 properties and the detail. Who are the lien holders? What are the amounts? The amounts on there are lower than the amounts on this sheet because every day interest accumulates. That was at month end last month at the end of May, and
So
now
when
we're.
you sell it, you sell it just to cover the liability to the town? Or a
Well,
market
Taxes
value?
and attorney
It
fees.
can sell for higher than that, and then that money gets put in escrow.
Goes back.
But it's not, it's
It
mainly.
becomes a bidding war. Yeah,
Mainly it's
we
the fees.
we collect our taxes. So. Last item is a bond update. So as I had sent out to you, our bond rating has changed back to AA2. The minus has been dropped. I'll call it the Malloy minus. He's the one that gave us that. Um, and based on our conversations with Moody and their analysis of our financials, they have upgraded us back to AA2. They've dropped a minus. In terms of the projects that are slated to be done this year, the Board of Ed has already started the oil tank replacement. They've gone out to bid and are going over the details of that with an engineer to make a decision who gets that contract. The auditorium lighting project is scheduled to start the first week of August. The track is scheduled to go out to bid in July. They expect to get a lot of that work done through the end of the summer and in early fall, and actually have it finished in the spring of next year. The security upgrade project that they had is starting the first week in July 8th. And then to replace all the doors and canopies which have been rotting, they have received one quote and are waiting for 2 others. So they're well underway, starting their project, initiating their projects. Again, you know, they have a very narrow time window for the most part. That's when school is out. In terms of roads, our paving will begin the week of July 10th. And we plan to do $1 million worth of road paving this summer. So, and the detail of all those roads I don't have with me, but I do have the schedule upstairs. But so that's it.
And the
Was the-
lighting, oh, go ahead, Mike, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. What- In the discussion of the replacement of the track, was there ever mention that the soccer field in the center was being rebuilt?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
the
the whole
Soccer.
redesign of that
That's
whole
the whole
area.
premise, cause
Yeah, it's going to be soccer,
Exactly.
field hockey, any of those
Yeah.
types of sports are going to be.
The bleachers,
They'll be
I think.
within the confines of the track now that the track will be legal size.
Track's a different size now, right? Yeah.
Right,
It's
it's,
bigger.
it'll be larger, and then
Regulation.
I don't know if they've finalized the light portion of it, but I do believe that they will put in lights. Therefore, it'll allow all those games to be played in the evening also, so.
And is the auditorium lighting high energy efficient stuff? It must be.
Yes, it is, yeah.
Do we get any tax credit or? any
Yeah, I do
tax
believe
credit?
it is
There'll be
offset by some tax credit.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Anything else?
How does a tax credit help
Not
us?
a tax credit, but it's, I think you get some type of,
It's a rebate,
Reimbursement.
energy
It's a
rebate,
rebate,
yeah.
Energy rebate on your
We
bill.
don't get tax credits,
Right,
right,
it's
we're
the
a
wrong choice of
municipality, yeah.
words.
But I knew what you were talking
yes,
about.
thank you. It's an Italian thing.
So on those approval of minutes, right, I think they can approve the 5th, but they cannot approve the 10th because you don't have a quorum again here that was at that meeting.
Or the May 20th.
So there's no transfers?
How about May 20th? That,
No,
no?
the only one they can do is March 5th.
So they can approve March
We need
5th.
A motion to accept, March 5th, 2019 minutes.
So moved.
There's a second.
Second.
Any discussion, any changes? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, you wanna get back to the transfers or?
Don't have any.
Yeah, I'm
You don't
sorry.
have any?
Not
We
yet.
don't have any.
Oh.
Not yet.
Just a heads up, I think next month we are going to have I'm going to request a big transfer, and I'll just give you the background really quickly. You remember the OPEB and the OPEB trust, and how the Board of Finance had committed in the general fund over $750,000 for that. It's been sitting in the general fund and needs to be moved into the trust fund. In order to move that money into the trust fund, either the selectmen or staff, and I can do this, I will request of you a transfer of $750,000 from the general fund to the OPEB trust fund. That obviously will kick off the need for a town meeting.
I was gonna say, you need us.
It's a revenue neutral move. It's just being moved from general fund where it sits now into a irrevocable trust fund. So I probably will come to you with that in August. I want to wait till the new fiscal year begins.
If it's a transfer, does it need a town meeting? We transfer stuff all the time without.
Not at that dollar amount.
It's an appropriate.
It's
Um,
over 20,000 if it's an appropriation, but this isn't an appropriation
Well,
of money.
well, I have to get a clarification
Yeah.
on whether or not it's
Just
appropriation.
thinking about it as a
If
transfer.
the lang, if, yeah, sometimes those terms are used.
I think it would be good because it's irrevocable.
Yeah,
Probably wouldn't
yeah,
hurt.
yeah. You know, so, that's just a heads up, we'll get a clarification on that with the attorney and their accountants.
Okay. Any other business? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
For a second. All in
Second.
favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you, everyone.
That was
What's
easy.
OPEB? Or what'd you say? What was that trust?
Other,